Yay.
Welcome.
Yay.
Sorry, I thought Stacey was gonna say something for a second, but no.
We
Oh,
we've
sorry.
officially
My
started.
nose is itchy.
We've officially started. Yay.
Yes. Oh my
Yay.
gosh. Thank you for having me back. As if it's your choice.
It's
No,
our
you're
it's
here.
our privilege. It's our
Yeah.
Keep
privilege. Our
hounding us.
Yeah.
privilege.
You keep hounding us. We have to have you back.
Exactly. Chanel, you are, I would say, the first of a new wave of people that I
I've been
successfully converted.
seeing.
Yes.
I yes, I even got Susan Lee obsessed. And
Oh,
I don't just mean that she watched the whole thing, she binged the whole thing and enjoyed it. Like when I send her memes and theories, like she interacts with me. Like, do you know what kind of friend you have to actually
yeah. Yes.
to
Oh my God. I
interact with
love
your
her.
crazy? Yeah.
It's the
Yes, that's
best.
awesome. I've been
The
seeing
best
you
kind of friend.
repost a bunch of people and
Yeah.
they're like, yes, Julie converted me. Like, I'm so into this. I'm like, damn, the
Most of them are complete
influence.
strangers, and by that I mean my lovely readers. But like
Hmm.
most of them are people I have not like looked in the eye and said, please watch this show. Um, but yeah, I the quickest way to get me to DM you back is to start talking interview
That
with
is
the
That just
so
and
vampire
all,
funny.
with me.
just
That is
all
so
caps in your
funny.
DM, interview with a vampire, and you'll
Yeah.
respond.
Oh, you have no idea. If I had like 10,000 more arcs of Rose and Chains to give away, that would be the way.
That
Well, that
is
would
That
get
would
so
be the way.
everybody. That would get everybody. So,
Yeah.
wow. This is the key, people. This is the key.
This is the key. Oh
Love
man.
it.
So
Well,
we're
yeah,
doing episodes 5 and 6 today.
5 and 6.
How
which are
exciting.
intense
Yes.
They are
episodes.
intense. We're getting very intense. Hmm.
It's like the disillusion of the family dynamic essentially is
It
like
was
the theme.
barely holding on
It
anyway,
was
but
just like,
Yeah,
yeah, crumbling.
exactly. Um Yeah, so episode 5 is like clearly the most divisive episode of
Hmm.
pretty much the whole series, I'd say.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so like from it's hard because episode 5 is so like defined by what happens at the end of it. So sometimes
Mhm.
I'm like, what else happened in the first
I
40
know, I
40
know.
minutes?
I also have to like go back because I watched the season finale, right? And so like
Yeah.
I feel like my opinions and feelings have changed. So I had to like I didn't watch but I like went through like a little recap and like saw some people's like their opinions or whatever about it. And I had to like go back in that mindset of what happened in episode 5 and like what I was thinking or feeling in that episode, like you said, because it was intense and it was a different time
It was a different time.
versus at the season
Yes.
finale. And
Yeah.
like I hated Claudia then, right? I think
Yeah.
I've told you guys now I've kind of come
Yes.
around on her.
Hmm.
And and yeah. And yeah, there was a reason I felt like she was the one of the main factors of their relationship crumbling.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And kind of going to what else happened to that episode right before the ending, but she is like on this killing spree and she's not really listening. She's kind of this rebellious teenager um and is collecting souvenirs and I'm just
Yeah.
like still so mad at her, like just like you're just annoying.
Yeah.
Should I personally thought I was just like, she is a classic serial killer, like keeping her
Yeah.
trophies and
Yeah.
like her
But
journals about it. I was like,
yeah.
she is,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, their
I'm
their
like,
last words and things was
Oh
such a
my God.
fascinating thing. But you know
Yeah.
what I really enjoyed is like the souvenirs are definitely a serial killer thing, but it's
Hmm.
also like interesting someone with like body dysmorphia, you know,
Mm,
like
yeah.
who's like taking pieces of like not that she was trying to build or Frankenstein herself
Yeah.
a person, you know, but I just thought that was a really interesting like way of showing how she's locked
stuck in
in
a
to her
body.
fate.
Hmm.
Yeah. and so she's interested, you know, even just the thing that really sold it to me was the fact that like she chopped off a woman's breast. I was like, that's a
Yeah.
that's a fun souvenir. That doesn't keep
Yeah.
well. It keeps
That's
less
gonna
well
keep
than a
well.
toe.
Yeah.
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 Um,
Hmm.
speaking of that moment, I feel like my favorite side actor in this entire series, which is a heavy role to fill because all of the casting is so great, but is the Tom Anderson character, the guy with the mustache who runs the other
Oh.
runs
Mhm.
the Fair Play Saloon,
Hmm.
and but he's hilarious. He's awful, but like
Yeah.
his line deliveries are just insanely good. He's
Hmm.
such a fantastic actor.
Yeah, he
Mhm.
plays it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yes, definitely. Yeah, I just did not like her. I'm going back to those emotions. I was just like,
I
oh,
know.
because she ends up getting caught. Of course, the
Of
police come,
course.
and you're just
Mhm.
Yeah.
like,
But that is one of my favorite scenes of
When they're
this
at the
whole
house?
show.
just
When she's like
chaos.
drunk on the couch and these
Yeah.
cops are there.
You're
She's so
anxious for
funny.
them.
I know.
It was just, it's so great to me watching it a second time though. I'm like, this whole scene is just so amazing with her and this like body and this like
Yeah.
wardrobe. And they're
No.
fighting out back with the cops about this like incinerator that they have out
Yeah.
there. And I thought it was
No, it gave me
magic.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Peak physical comedy with like the body that won't stay in the closet, and
Oh
Yes.
God. Yeah.
it's like, and I love it too that like you, like Chanel said, you have such anxiety for them,
Hmm.
but you're like, but also they could just like fix
Kill
this
him.
situation, like they'd have to leave
Hmm.
town, you know,
Yeah.
like, but like they're fine, you know,
Yeah.
they're gonna be fine, but at the same
Hmm.
time you do see that there is some power that they still don't have
Hmm.
in, you know, taking, not even speaking on Louis and Claudia's race in this moment, but like the policeman says at the end, like, there's a fine for sexual deviance or whatever they would call it
Hmm.
back then. And so it's like they don't get to just charm and money their way out of it because they are not a traditional family.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of factors.
Yeah.
Which is just
Yeah.
funny for the show because it's about vampires and stuff. And so I think it kind of gets lost and then it gets to this point where like they're trying to hide these body parts and this like live half dead person and they're like, you'll get in trouble for being gay around here, bro. Like that's the end when they leave and it's like
You're like, man, we'll work on it, officer.
yeah.
Gosh, crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that like obviously again just goes back to, okay, Claudia's mad because she, that's, she has her scene and is just like, well, who's gonna F me? I'm stuck in this body.
Oh
Again,
my,
the
that is so
comparison is
funny
so
though with Lestat when they're talking about that. He's like, she's being impossible.
yeah.
It's so
I
good.
mean,
It's
yeah.
so inappropriate and so good. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, well, and I love that you can see on Louis' face, he's like, what are we even talking about? Like, you know,
Mhm.
he's like, you're my child. You
You're
don't
a
have
baby.
sexual urges,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Right,
you
right.
know, like and so it's just, well, and then Claudia reveals that Lestat's
Hmm.
still been sleeping with Antoinette,
Hmm.
which is just, come on, Lestat.
Icing on the cake.
What's
I
he even
know.
seeing her? I want to know.
I
Like,
know. Because
She
she
gives him
worships him.
attention.
Yeah.
yeah.
She gives him
And
that
it's,
love that Louis
yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. And I think
Mhm.
it's, you know, he had hoped that it would make Louis jealous or that Louis would have a reaction. Obviously, he didn't want it found out right then like it was, but like,
Mhm.
and then he kept her around because of the attention, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um and then Claudia goes off to college, and we get another very divisive section of the narrative. I've heard a lot of people, you know, go back and forth on, did we really need Claudia's sexual assault, to
Mhm.
kind of like, do we need sexual assault as a plot device? Do we need, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I I don't know. How do you guys feel? I land on the side of like, um, we didn't we didn't see the assault and we didn't glorify it, and
Mm-hmm.
it happens so often that to to not have it in media is strange to me sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
on the other side of it, like, could we have had the same plot without the plot device of sexual assault?
I mean, you wanna go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I
go
didn't mean-
ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't think it was glorified, and I mean, to me, I do think it was like kind of needed, for lack of a better word, because I think for two different reasons. One, I think it's the catalyst of why she came back to Louis and Lestat anyways. I'm not sure if that would
Yeah.
have happened without this. And two, and this comes into play like later too, I think it's kind of also showing what Lestat has been saying from the beginning
Mhm.
when she's been so curious about other vampires, is that they're not, most of them
Mhm.
are not like quote unquote good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I never thought it was glorified or it wasn't needed, I guess. So,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think some shows really go graphic with it and can make it some females characters entire like plot like whatever thing. So I think it's like a definitely a delicate balance. But like Ashley said, I think that's the main catalyst that brings her back to them. And I think they did it in a good way that they talk about it, but it's not glorified. And especially like Louis saying that pages are ripped out and he won't talk about it. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anything else really would have, because in my head, I can't think of anything else at that time that probably would have brought her back that could have like caused that kind of psychological, like she needs her father kind of thing with Louis is what I think happened. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
The only thing I think on top of that was just when she was in the cemetery and heard Louis and Gloria talking and
Mm.
Yeah.
like saw
Grace. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
his or sorry,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Grace.
I like
Where that
Gloria.
Gloria.
Yeah.
And Grace talking and I think that was like the second part of her coming back,
Mhm.
right? Being like, he, you know, I'm his sister. Like he wanted a sister. Like, why did he turn me? Kind of
Mhm.
thing. And that I think that solidified her coming back on top of
Yeah.
her going away and being assaulted. So but I agree with both of what you guys said. And yeah, I think it also was just again, just kind of showed in like what, because it was like 7 years.
Yeah.
Their marriage isn't
Oh my
good,
God,
right?
the
Like,
hoarding period is
yeah.
so well, okay. What I love, I love is someone on Twitter said at one point, like, well, now we know who the housewife was because when Louis went into depression, Lestat could not keep up,
No, he could not.
His ADHD ass could not clean that house.
No, he couldn't. Dude,
Um,
the raccoon running through it and they're just
you guys,
reading
and
my
then
favorite part.
there's a raccoon, and then like later on, the raccoon is like they have skinned it. It's like a little raccoon. Like, have you seen
this
it?
you told
No.
me that, and I need to look for it because
You have to go
like
back.
whatever's going on screen, Sam Reed must be transcendent, and I just don't look anywhere else
Mhm,
because of
mhm,
course
mhm.
I've seen this show millions of times and still have
Yeah.
not seen the raccoon carcass.
That's
Um,
crazy.
but the interesting thing to me about, and yes, I did get this from fanfic, is that yes, there's like rats running around the house
Mhm.
and raccoons and stuff, but I wonder if, because Louis not feeding himself, if
Mhm.
Lestat lets them run around so that when Louis remembers he's hungry,
Oh, I didn't
you
think about
know,
that. Mhm.
yeah. We're all like, oh,
Oh,
rats
the
of
rats.
love. Um,
That's his
like
love
that, like
language.
exactly. Now, would Lestat have truly cleaned that house?
His
No.
love language
Absolutely
is
not. He wasn't cleaning
rats.
that house.
Yeah, but like because Louis not eating, which is
Mhm.
such an interesting. There's more stuff in season 2, so we'll wait for that. But like just different takes on like, can you see Louis having an eating disorder, like in our
Mm-hmm.
2025 view of what an eating disorder is, you know, and just even just the way that he's very careful about food and has rituals with his food in present day and stuff. But the hoarding period is one of my favorites because you know they're fucking miserable.
Uh-huh.
Just hating each other.
Yes, but also at the same time, like Lestat could have left at
Mm-hmm.
any
Yeah.
time, you know, like,
Mhm.
and like, and you know, say what you will about his motivations for staying and why he needs Louis, why he loves Louis, blah 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 blah. But like, it's a long time
Mm-hmm.
to, and perhaps from his point of view, to just be there for a depressive person. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yes, they're fighting, but to just like be a presence. And they have some really
Which
interesting, what were you gonna say?
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say they have some really interesting like quips back and forth to each other that
Mhm.
are Easter eggs um for for like other things down the line that like terrible parts of like Lestat's backstory. So either Louis knows it and he's poking the bear on purpose, or he doesn't know it and it's even sadder that he's like
Mm-hmm.
being so mean about certain things. Um, he probably knows it because that Louis got it from his mama.
He
Mm-hmm.
did.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Chanel? Do you remember?
No, I was you just said like it's kind of just a long time, and um just think time is really interesting in this show in their world, because then when Claudia comes back, and I had kind of messaged you about this, like um she comes back and then they like get back together, happy families, and and they set like ground rules of how they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
be together. And then what is it like, then 3 years goes by. Wait, how much? I'm trying to
Well, first Claudia comes back and then
first
they have the fight.
the
Yeah, we gotta
fight,
talk about the
yes.
fight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes. Then the fight
Yeah.
happened.
But
Sorry,
then
yes.
they
And
when they
then
and then in
then that was
six when
like
they yeah.
then I was like, then I
Yeah.
was like, how much time has passed since the
Yeah.
fight,
I
and
know.
when
Yeah.
then they get back together and they make
Yeah.
it. Okay. That's
And
interesting.
Chanel, my costume eye girly. This is the first time we see Lestat in all black is during the fight scene, which is
Mm,
just interesting to me, right?
mhm,
Because whether in memory or in reality, he is truly the villain of that, what we're
Mm-hmm.
presented, right? Um, and so, yeah, the fight scene. What did we make of the fight scene?
It was,
Guys,
it's so hard to watch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it was easier to watch the second time around, but I'm
Yeah.
not joking. The first time I watched this, I think I called Stacy and I was so mad at her. I was like, I cannot believe you got me so invested in this show. This fucking fight scene is horrendous. I was like so distraught over it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's a lot, but then towards the end, which, I'm all team Louis, but like towards the end when he starts talking, I was kind of like, am I kind of for Lestat? Like he's like making this like heartfelt like confession, and he's just like,
Mm-hmm.
just what did he say? Like, tell me
I,
if you
yeah.
can't, or
I've waited for you to love me
yeah,
and just
Mm-hmm.
tell me,
tell me if you
yeah,
can't, or you won't,
yeah.
whatever the heck he says.
Just tell me, Lestat, I'm never going to love you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I'm just like, you're such a manipulative little bitch.
it is very
But,
manipulative, but it's
but
also
yeah.
like, it's also very true from his point of view that like Louis is withholding.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Louis is withholding. Like he's not
Yeah.
giving 100% of himself, at least again from Lestat's point of view. He is not getting 100% of Louis. Louis is, whether it's he's giving some of his love to Claudia, whether
Yeah.
he's, upset with him because of his family dynamics, right? He had to give some of his love to his family, or he's upset because he's separated from his family, like, um, or he's upset because he's lost his mortal self. Like, he is not 100% in or 100% in love with Lestat, and Lestat knows it. And that's why he is seeking attention, love, whatever you want to call it, from Antoinette.
Yeah.
And so that is he's hurt. And
Yeah.
even though it doesn't justify
Yeah, exactly.
physically
That's
beating.
my favorite thing about villains, though, and like
Mhm.
morally gray characters, is that like the reason that we like morally gray characters is because we only call them gray because we can justify their, like, we know what justifies their actions to them,
Mhm.
you know? So
Mhm.
it's like,
Mhm.
I'm always for playing devil's advocate and seeing it from
Mhm.
from the other side.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think also the Louis has not told, like, used the words "I love you" to Lestat. And like he may think he says it in his actions, but also he has not said the words to Claudia either. And he clearly loves her, especially in his own memories and even in her memories of him. And I think so much comes from his upbringing and his family. But he could tell Paul that he loved him very easily.
Mhm.
And that was his last words to Paul were, "I love you too, baby brother."
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think it's just such an interesting journey for Louis to have two people that he loves so, so much, Lestat on and off or in his own way and things like that, that he can't voice that love to. And he's a
Mhm.
withholding person, like you said. So some of his
Mhm.
actions also don't show
Mhm.
that he loves. Um, yeah, the fight is devastating. And also was it, speaking of present day, Daniel says, uh, says Charlie Manson wrote a couple of great songs, but he was still Charlie
It's Charlie
Manson.
Manson. Yes.
And then the end of the episode, the song that plays when Lestat like floats down and like Claudia like glares at him is the Charlie Manson song.
Oh
Is
my
one
God,
of
I don't
Charlie
think I
Manson's
realized
songs.
that. Oh
Yeah.
I
my
didn't
God.
realize that.
And the
Mm-mm.
lyrics are like "Home is where you're happy." And it's such a there's such they're geniuses and weirdos, those
That
writers,
is
you
Yes.
so
know.
funny.
So it's like the only time that they've like switched to like a contemporary pop song at the end of an
Charlie
episode,
Manson.
and it's to
I
Charlie
did notice
Manson.
that, but I didn't notice the song. That
Yeah,
is so
yeah.
funny.
Which is it's interesting too, because like emotionally it kind of like jars you out of the moment, like
Yeah.
Mhm.
in a good way, like from a sound design perspective. Like it's kind of like it reminds me whenever we would do serious musicals like Les Mis, like musicals that end on a downer or like
Yeah.
the audience is crying. Like there's like two schools of thought. It's like, do you walk out and there's no music underscoring the bows?
Yeah, yeah.
Or do you walk out to like Master of the House, like do you change to like the upbeat song and the actors are smiling at the audience as they take their bow, or is it the very serious "thank you for coming" and
Yeah.
like there's two schools of thought, but the one that I like is like the bows are for the audience, not it's like you're supposed to let them breathe finally. And so like I feel like I almost
Mhm.
had the same kind of reaction. It was like you can't breathe the entire fight scene and you're like,
Yeah.
does this
Mhm.
continue? Does Claudia charge at him now? Like what happens now?
Mhm.
Like she looks like she's gonna kill him and he could clearly kill her. And then it's like, home is where you're happy. And I'm just like, wow, we're out of it now,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah.
It's
Well,
definitely
I
how
didn't
I
Um,
even
felt with that
didn't even
music. I was
realize
like,
that.
whoa.
But
Like it was a
yeah.
jarring moment.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was
And
like, what
Um,
just happened?
I know.
it's such an intense scene, but it's so beautiful too.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like one of the most beautiful
yeah.
shots of the entire
Mm-hmm.
show is when
Yeah.
they're up in the clouds, and
Mm-hmm.
like and it's like you can kind of see like the sun start, like it's like the sky is blue, not black, and
Yeah.
it's just such a gorgeous shot, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so like you can't even like enjoy it because of
Mm-mm.
what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
funny.
yeah, the before we move on to episode 6, I want to say present day with Malloy, I feel like heats up a little bit more in this episode. There's things like Rashid, who I guess will let people only watch episodes 5 and 6
Yeah.
if to
Mm-hmm.
watch this episode of this podcast. But Rashid like is a source of food for Louis at the top of the episode,
Mm-hmm.
and Daniel has to like put up with that. But then also like uh Daniel and Louis have their altercation about um how Claudia will be portrayed in the book,
Hmm.
and like
Mm-hmm.
it's just so funny, the writing, because it speaks like directly to like what readers have latched on to about Claudia for like 50 years now, is like the child vampire, and there'll be sexy Claudia Halloween outfits next
Mm-hmm.
year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like that's awful, and
Mm-hmm.
that's totally what we do, and like
Mm-hmm.
and then they get into that fight where Louis activates his Parkinson's, and Daniel gets to slap him, which is great.
It's amazing. He's
Yeah,
so brave, you guys.
He
I just
doesn't give
love
a
him.
shit, dude. That's
I
why he
know.
doesn't care.
Ashley's like, that's my man.
That when it happens, like, that's my man.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was I was shocked. I was like, oh
I
my
know.
God.
There's like, I wouldn't say trust, but like there's a there's like this like weird mutual respect between the two of
Mhm.
them, that like Daniel, of course, probably is still like does not believe he's going to get out alive of this
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
interview situation. He can't truly believe that he's going to be fine.
Which is
But like,
ironic because of what
yeah,
happens when you
yeah,
find out the next
yeah,
episode or two. But anyway, go ahead.
yeah. Um, but like it's yeah. So one thing, and I think this is something to talk more about at a later time, but like there's something really interesting about Louis losing his temper with Daniel. Um, and Louis showing any kind of emotion whatsoever in present day. Like when Louis makes Daniel's hand shake, and then and then Rashid comes in and is like, Mr. Duloc would like to apologize, blah, 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 blah. Like, there's something so interesting that Jacob Anderson does where, like, it's like, I think his hands are like on the table and they're like tense, but his hands are on the table. And then, as like Daniel's hand is shaking and he's like looking at Louis, like, what are you doing? Stop it. And Rashid comes in and puts his hand on on Louis's shoulder. Jacob Anderson does this like release and lift, like he needed to be reminded to stop. Like, like
Mhm.
just a really interesting thing to point out as we track forward, like these little like characteristics of who Louis in present day is, and what
Mhm.
his
Also, just because it seems so different from what
yeah,
we're learning about in
Yeah.
the past, where especially because you were just talking about him being so controlled with his hunger specifically, right?
yeah,
Like, not that like it's a different type of control, I guess, but right, like you don't think that he's gonna like eat Daniel or something, but
right,
you see him being so controlled, right? Like he's almost being
Mhm.
made fun of. He is being made fun of by Claudia and Lestat
yeah,
for eating animals, right? And then
yeah,
I can't remember which, if it was 5 or 6, but he eventually does give in and starts hunting with
Yeah.
them. I think it's 6, right? Because she's back.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
right, so you're like, he does have control. Eventually gives in, but he always does like go back to eating animals just for his conscience. But I think that is a good point to be made that like it seems almost like in this present day, maybe I don't know if he's lost a part of himself, he's lost his control,
Right.
or what has kind of gone on, right,
Yeah.
within
Mhm.
these 100 years or whatever the heck. So you're right, that is kind of interesting
Yeah. And
to
just I love Jacob Anderson having different dialects throughout. Like you can hardly hear any of the NOLA, any of the New Orleans like
Mhm.
drawl come through anymore. It's very refined as if he's someone who has like lived in Europe or in the UK for a long time. Um, so episode 6, I like to call the emotional manipulation by the writers of Interview
Yes.
with the
Mhm.
Vampire because it's so masterful. Like if you I think they're apart for 20 minutes of screen time.
Right?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Like we're all so mad at Lestat at the end of episode 5, and all it takes is that slutty little polo and that Rolls Royce for everyone to just turn on a
That's all
Flip
dime
it
and
it.
be like,
takes.
Mhm.
and like I have watched a lot of people react to this show, and I would say like 80% of the time someone makes some comment about that slutty little polo.
Oh my
And
God,
I'm
it's
talking
so
I'm talking
funny.
straight guys. I'm
Mhm.
talking like any kind of people. Like this he jumps out of that car and I have heard so many variations of damn he looks good.
Because he does.
And the music is doing something to you too. It's a waltz. It's in 3/4, 3/4 time and like it's like it's a music box. It's playing you a love song. It's a very fascinating like the way that they tied the writing, the script, the acting, and the costume and the music together is just this like masterful emotional
It doesn't do
manipulation.
anything for Louis though.
I know. Yeah, right? It's almost like it's all for the
For
audience so
us
that
to love him again.
by the
It
time
took
Louis breaks,
it
you're
took
like, yeah,
10
yeah, yeah.
years. It took 10 years
Yeah.
again back to time. It's like
Yeah.
that's what got me because I was like, wait, 10 years, like they kept referencing time. I was like,
Yeah.
they have been away from each other for 10 years. Him and Claudia are living without Lestat. He's sending them gifts, he's begging,
Yeah.
he's calling, and they really iced him out. And
Mm-hmm.
you almost forget, like, oh yeah, they're immortal. Like 10
Yeah.
years was probably
A drop in
20
the
minutes
bucket.
for them.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah, like
nothing,
nothing.
I
Just
like
a
to
couple
think of,
months,
yeah, I like to
Like,
think of it as like a month per year. Like if you
yeah,
think of like someone
yeah.
disappearing without a trace for 6 years, and like if you don't know where someone is for 6 months, like, I like to think of it as like that's
Hmm.
like our comparable, time period.
Yes, yes.
Um, no, you're so right. It's like they sped through time in that area,
Mhm.
and it was just like you see a couple of the times that Lestat like tried to get back in their good graces, and it's always about Louis. It's never about Claudia, which is
Hmm.
Mhm.
such a faux pas.
Mhm.
Such
Poor
a
Claudia.
mistake, sir. Yeah, exactly. I
Poor
mean,
Claudia, yeah.
he knows he can't win with Claudia, but you have to
Yeah.
like buy her a car too. Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get her
Like what do you
something small,
mean?
a flower, something.
Yeah, like I know she doesn't want, she'll scratch up the hood of that car, but but
Hmm.
get her a car.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I absolutely I feel like I feel like the scene where they get back together is so telling of so many different things. What what did you take away from it, Chanel, when you were watching it, and Ashley when you like watched it again for like the second time?
Go ahead, Ashley.
I just, it's like, it's so quick, but there's so much stuff happening in this scene. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah,
so quickly. Like, one, it's so sweet that Lestat has composed this whole thing for him, and then you
right.
hear that freaking Antoinette is on it,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
I just love that's what it took to get Louis to
We
like
hate that bitch.
to
Yeah.
swim, because he can swim faster
Yes.
than he can whatever, over
Yeah.
to her apartment. And like they are literally in bed together, which Lestat knew that he was going to come. So it's
Yeah.
like Lestat is not surprised about any of this. He knew he was gonna be like caught in bed with Annette or Antoinette, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then Louis makes her leave her own apartment as she's like naked in bed. And it's
I
just
know.
so what it says so much
He's
about
like, did
all
I
three of them.
stutter? Did
Did
I
I-
stutter?
yeah.
Get out, bitch. That's what
Do
he
I
says-
look
said.
like I care? Yeah, exactly.
It
That was
says
the
so much
script.
about all three of them
Yeah.
so quickly in this one little scene, and really Louis
Yeah.
is the only one talking. It just sums
Yeah.
up the entire dynamic within like a couple seconds. I
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
And Lestat can't take his eyes off of Louis. Like
Mhm.
he doesn't even
Mhm.
look at Antoinette again once he's gotten off of her.
Yes.
And he looks so good with that
Yes.
just that sheet tossed over
I
one leg.
I know.
it's
I know.
amazing.
And so does Louis.
God.
He's like
He's
He's dripping water.
dripping. He's so mad. Oh my God. Yeah, what were you gonna say, Chanel? What's your
That's really the same thing. I was just like, ugh,
Yeah.
I fucking hate Antoinette. And
Mhm.
yeah, she kind of almost knows that she's like second fiddle, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
she knows.
Not to leave. But
I bet Lestat talks about Louis all day, every day.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
He's like praying she brings him up.
Yeah.
My only question about this is that because he plays Daniel a recording
Yes.
of it, and he says that that Lestat had destroyed the master. This was like the only one, but
Yeah.
then doesn't he
And then
break it in
Louis
the
just breaks it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So then how do they get this recording of it? That
Well,
is my
that's
own.
not that recording, because the recording that they play for Daniel is Lestat singing. So it's a inferior
Okay.
re-recording is
Okay.
what he says. And that
That's
is
what
one
I-
of the
okay.
outstanding questions from the series is, when was this inferior re-recording made?
Yes.
Mhm.
And like,
because
yeah.
Lestat isn't in present day.
Yeah. And like,
Mhm.
could it have been after they got back together? And he's like, I'd like to give you the song the right way. Like could
Mhm.
totally could have
Mhm.
been. But
Mhm.
what is the truth? With
Yeah.
receipts.
I want the
timelines.
receipts.
Yeah.
I want it
Mhm.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the outstanding questions. And I wonder if it's something that the writers didn't thought could be a throwaway line, but the fandom's like, nope.
Never.
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
no
I-
throwaway lines.
Or
I
if
clocked
it's
it.
something that'll be addressed
Yeah.
later. I
Later.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't catch
Exactly.
it the first time, but I clocked it the second. I'm like, when did this recording happen? Because this
Yeah.
this is the math ain't mathing on this. So I want to
Yeah.
know.
And it's a gorgeous song. The full song is available on Spotify with Sam Reed singing. So like more
I'm gonna
than
die.
Oh, it's good too. It's I'll Chanel, if you want to listen to it, let me send it to you so you don't get spoiled on something. But you're like,
Okay.
fine. But there's like, the lyrics are gorgeous, and there's references to this opera that like is about like two lovers and a third like person interfering, like two, so and so, like she's engaged to the king and she's falling in love. It's like a Lancelot type of thing.
Mm.
Like, it's just a very interesting, like, I got questions because clearly like it can relate to Antoinette being the person in between, Claudia being the person in
Mhm.
between, or just Lestat being Louis being the person that's being pulled in two directions, but there's like a secret third thing that I am curious about, and I think it'll take us a couple more seasons to get there, but I will share that theory at a later date. But it just makes me wonder, because like they could have chosen Romeo and Juliet, they could have chosen
Mhm.
Lancelot and Guinevere, like they could have but they chose a very like specific opera, and I think it was a French opera, so it would make sense if like
Mhm.
it was something that Lestat would like grew up with or something, but like it's a very specific opera, and I got questions.
Mhm.
So let's see, what else did we skip over anything
No, they're
in
back
that
together
reunion?
and they
Yeah.
make rules.
Excellent hate sex. Like
Oh,
Yes.
top tier. Top tier.
excellent hate sex. In fact, of course they do. Like people slow down the gifs and like the gifs, the Tumblr gift sets. Jacob dives into his mouth tongue first. Like like they
As he
slowed it
should.
down and he's like grabbing Sam's like face and like his tongue is already out before they're
Amen.
kissing. And I'm like, oh, bless.
Blessed.
I
Bless these
love it.
men.
Blessed.
Yeah.
Oh
These
my
gays are trying to
Um,
kill me.
These gays are trying to kill me.
these gays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So clearly that was the thing that got them back together.
Yeah.
Claudia's
Mhm.
not happy.
Yeah,
Oh,
because they come
man.
up with like these rules after.
Mhm.
This is when they come
Yeah.
up with the rules
Mhm.
for them to be, which
Mhm.
immediately I'm like, ain't nobody sticking to any of these rules that are like on both sides. Like they're
Yeah.
just speaking things out into existence right
And-
now.
Yeah.
Like,
They tried though. They tried.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Yeah, they
then
tried.
we find out about Lestat's origin.
Yeah. How did you
With-
take that, Chanel?
I took it for what it was. You know, I was
Mhm.
just like,
Yeah.
okay, he's giving us his story and it's Lestat, you know.
Yeah.
So I am
Mhm.
like, I was
Yeah.
wary. How about that?
Yeah.
Kind of like
Yeah.
Claudia, which she kind of says
Exactly. Yeah.
at the end, where she's like, you really believe him, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, and Ashley had kind of said, you know, he's like, other vampires are not good vampires, which I mean, I wouldn't say Lestat's a good vampire. So I'm like,
Right.
how do you he could be right. His creator, Magnus, could have been a bad guy, but like, how do we know that you weren't the evil one in this equation? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I was just weary. If that
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
truth, if you know, I don't know. So I was just like, okay, I'm taking what you're saying and I'm just leaving
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's I think he knows, I think I got this from a interview with the showrunner, but something like Lestat knows that the only way to stay in this house is to tell his story at this moment. Like
Mhm.
whatever version of it he wants to tell, but like he's like, you know, he's like, okay, let me answer this question or else
Mhm.
I'm not, you know, this won't work on Louis. this
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
me us pretending to follow rules isn't going to work, you know.
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
and I love Sam Reed does such a good job with that monologue, like
Mhm.
telling a story to the camera without cuts
Mhm.
is the worst kind of monologue. Like sitting perfectly
I can
still.
only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, like with you, like you can't even like fiddle with something and let your hand tell the story of what's agitating you, you know? Like that's like one of the hardest things to act, honestly. And he does such a good job. And he he said that he actually added a line in to the script, and because he knew that they weren't going to cut away and he wanted the line in so bad. It's like wedged in the middle of the thing. And so the line he added was I didn't want this. The like
Mm.
he thought it was important to make it clear that like he was brought into vampirism without a choice.
Yeah.
Unlike Louis, who he gave the choice to. But then, of course, you think about it, and Claudia didn't have the
mhm.
choice, but she
Mhm.
was saved. So it was like really important to Sam to have that in. And like, it's not that they told him no. I don't know. It seems very rebellious of him to like every
Mhm.
single take add in, I didn't want this. Even if they're like, Sam,
Leave it
back to the
out.
top. Yeah. But he knew they couldn't cut it because it was a oneer monologue.
That is so
Yeah.
genius, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Lestat of him.
Yeah. Good
Solo
for you,
stat of
Sam.
him. Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think that also goes to show like how again him and Claudia are so much alike. Like the way
Yes.
they came, like you said, to be a
Mhm.
vampire was very
Yeah.
similar, right?
They're so similar, which is something that
Mhm.
we see as this episode goes on too,
Mhm.
with the chess scenes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, is that the next big plot beat to talk about?
I
Is
think
Mhm.
so.
moving on to like
Mhm.
Claudia wanting to leave.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite moments of the whole series
Oh, the
was
temper
God.
tantrum.
tickets, please.
Oh.
Poor
Oh,
Claudia.
yeah.
She just
Um,
she just doesn't want to be seen back there so badly. You can just tell that she's just
It's
yeah.
like,
so
please don't come
funny
back.
and so terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
know.
It's yeah. So Claudia decides to, well, first Claudia shows Louis that he's still with Antoinette.
Mm.
And Louis,
After he said he'd
yeah,
killed her,
yeah,
right?
Mhm.
He'd shown her like a souvenir, her
A
finger,
yeah,
finger.
like, because that was one of the rules. She had to
kill
die.
Antoinette. Yeah,
So you're like, okay, he's doing good. He's a good
yeah,
boy.
yeah.
Liar. Liar.
Liar, we
Liar.
caught you. And Louis says right away, like, he knew that we'd catch him. He
Mhm.
wanted, we told him what to do, and he's a brat, and he didn't do
Mhm.
it. But Louis is so sad and so I almost more depressed than he was
Mhm.
in the hoarding era, when he just won't do anything about it. And it's just he got the family back together. Like, was he happier with just Claudia in those 6 years or so without
Mhm.
Lestat? Like,
Mhm.
clearly was not happy without Claudia. And then now we have all three of them together again, and it's just worse. It's so sad.
Mhm.
There's no, and like you said, like there's time that passes, but like imagine all of that time being that upset
Mhm.
and unhappy. The so the thing that I like to that the thing that I've like realized over so many rewatches, um, and I try not to give away anything for episode 7 for the rabid viewers who watched
Uh-huh.
it
The two
without
people.
the
They
two
love
people
it.
who
They
are like,
love it.
we have to watch 5 and 6 and then listen to this podcast.
Yes.
Um, is that I have noticed that Lestat does his most insane, unhinged things when Louis is about to kill himself.
Mhm.
Like the amounts
Mhm.
of times that Louis is so depressed and like about to take action, possibly. Like one of the things was killing all those priests in the first episode. He confessed to Father Matthias that he wanted to die, and that was the
Mhm.
moment that Lestat like broke apart the confessional and like ripped the priest out.
Mhm.
Um, and you're like, Lestat, why are you being so unhinged?
Unhinged as
um,
fuck.
yeah. And now at this point, when you listen to like the dialogue by itself and you're not like hypnotized by tickets, please. Um,
So freaking
like,
funny.
like Louis says, I thought about watching the sun come up that night on the
Mhm.
Claudia left. I thought about watching the sun come up.
Yeah.
Um, and Lestat's reaction is, well, I got to bring Claudia home.
Mhm.
Like, I got to go get her. Um, and I have like theories that the train scene is something that we'll revisit in later seasons. Because I also think like from Claudia's point of view, he is an absolute villain monster.
Yeah. 100%.
Like
Yeah.
a goblin gremlin in that scene. But he also I also have this like interesting headcanon of like, what if when she was 14, 15, like early, what if she really used to love it when he beheaded people and played with their heads?
Oh my God.
like,
He thought she'd
like
laugh.
Yeah.
something the two of them used to do. Like, can't you see that actually being the
Yes.
case? And he's like, I'm like, I'm here to be your friend,
I'm trying
like,
to break the tension with this.
yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
like, it requires a a re-showing of the scene, like a reacting of the scene.
Mhm.
But like if you were to take the script as is and play it differently,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
like that could also be the case of that scene. Um, and so there's certain lines that he says in that scene where he says, Louis Louis couldn't Louis picked you over me or something, and he says Louis couldn't pick an apple off a tree in his current state. And it's
Mhm.
funny, but he's like he doesn't have the strength to blah 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 blah. And it's Louis literally at that moment thinking about killing himself.
Mhm.
So it's like, and so Lestat says, so come home and make him happy. Um, and of course, like the scene we get is this absolutely villainous, like ridiculousness with the train conductor
Mhm.
Tickets,
and the
please.
tickets please, and like Lestat, are
Please.
you about to kill this dog? And you know, and
I would
just
have been
all like
so
the
mad.
yeah,
I was gonna be so mad if that happened the first time I watched. I'm like, not
yeah,
the dog. The
They
train
didn't
guy's
cross the line,
fine.
thank God.
I
Yeah.
know. Um, but like there's so much, I feel like there's so much that could be revisited about that scene and specifically Lestat's relationship with Claudia. Um,
Mhm.
so that's, I'm intrigued by
Mhm.
that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really
It is
interesting. I
good.
can't wait to see if that happens because that
Mhm.
makes so much sense now that you're saying that.
Mhm.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just may, you know, if anything, it's great fan fiction. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I
Which
was
we
that's
love.
what I was thinking is
yeah,
like it's like a fanfic take,
yeah,
but I don't think that makes it any less valid.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I also think that's like obviously when Claudia's like, yeah, I don't like how this is going. Like I want to escape, but I think she also realizes like, yeah, Louis does need me. Like,
Yeah.
and then right, like she like makes her plan. Like, I need to escape, but I need to bring him with me. Like
Yeah.
he needs me
yeah,
and we need to get away from this crazy ass dude. Like,
yeah,
Mhm.
like,
yeah,
like that's the breaking point
yeah,
of
yeah,
of of Claudia basically. And yeah, that's when she's like, you know, I'll come back to help him, but I
yeah,
gotta convince Louis that he needs to get away from
yeah.
Lestat.
Mhm.
Like that's the
And
goal
it's
now.
what I love too is like in one episode, like we had the slutty polo and the Rolls Royce. We had 2 rounds of great makeup sex. Like we had the hate sex, and then we had the vastly inappropriate Claudia is speaking into Louis's head while Lestat and Louis are having
Yeah.
sex.
Mhm.
Sex scene. With
Was that in
casual
the coffin?
floating. That was on, it was on the bed, but
Oh,
like Louis, like it's just like Louis on his back and like
oh
Lestat kissing a
Yes.
lot,
yes.
which inspired a lot of great fic theories about how much they both love it when Lestat kisses Louis's chest. But they like but like Lestat, Louis and Claudia are like speaking to each other in the middle of this like
Mhm.
intimate scene,
Yes.
and it's like this is not that's not
Appropriate.
how this goes.
Yeah.
Um, and like, but and then there's random levitation in that scene. Did you catch that? Like, Lestat like floats them again, but Lestat's on top. So I
Mm.
have so many questions.
Mhm.
I think I have too many questions. Like I think all it is that like it's another like Lestat's so fucking happy so he's floating.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thing like in episode 1, you know, like
Mhm.
floating when he bites Louis for the first time, but like he like they lift off the bed. I mean,
Mm.
I'm sure you don't need an extra reason to go back and rewatch
I'm
that
going
scene.
back because
Yeah, there we
for
go.
some reason I must have like missed
Yeah.
that somehow, but I will be
Yeah.
revisiting that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
They fully lift off the bed and like, but it's also like I don't know if Lestat's truly like supporting, like has his arms under him. You know, it's just such an
Mhm.
interesting, I'm like, I'm probably looking into it way too much because
But how
Louis
was this happening?
does not
Yeah.
does not have the cloud gift,
Mm.
but
Mhm.
what if he did?
Yes.
But what if he did?
But what if he did?
Is this also, I was like thinking present day, is this also
Mhm.
when Daniel, right, he like goes into like a dream state? Is this what happens, right? Where he
Yeah.
goes back
Mhm.
to when he first met Louis,
Yeah.
and which I just love his little afro.
Oh
Oh,
my God. He looks so good.
And he meets Daniel in a bar, and
Yeah.
that
oh, young
you find out
Daniel.
this is how they first started their first interview, how they
Yeah.
started their first interview.
Yeah.
I love
And
Daniel at any age, by the way.
I know you
Just
do.
Yeah.
any
I
age.
know.
Just
Yeah, he
That
looks
actor looks so good too.
yes.
Like
excellent casting.
he had like apparently I think he came to New Orleans because they filmed the whole thing out of New Orleans and then just used like warehouses for like set, like they normally would on sound stages. But I think the actor came to New Orleans early and like started studying Eric Bogosian.
What a smart man.
Yeah. But what's really funny about I don't know if he says it in this episode, but Daniel says at some point that he's from Modesto, California. And like, I know
Mm.
Modesto. That Long Island accent is not how they talk in Modesto. And like, I understand that like he just wanted to mimic Eric Bogosian's accent,
Mhm.
but like, I'm
Mhm.
just like, you ain't from Modesto. Um,
That's
but
so
he's
funny.
so good. Like he
Mhm.
looks
So
so
good.
much like him, and like
Mhm.
he's just so hot.
So
But
hot.
then we also get a sense of like who Louis has been since
Mhm.
these years, and like there's still
Mhm.
so many holes to fill in. Um, but like, and then we learn that Rashid is most likely a vampire because
Mhm.
he is the same age he was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Mhm. He pops up.
And he pops in. Um, and like not only that, but like he pops in and Louis says, "Would you like to join us?" As if he's
Mhm.
like not his assistant,
Mhm.
Mhm.
as if he's something else. Um, and I just think that's great that like Daniel mentioned earlier he's been dreaming about their first meeting, but
Mhm.
Mhm.
he says it keeps cutting out when you invite me back to your shitty apartment. Um, and so he like something broke through and he finally like got the rest of it essentially.
Mhm.
Yeah, so interesting. I like gasped.
I was just say
Yeah.
the first time I watched this,
Mhm.
I was just like mouth agape. I was just like, Rashid,
Rashid.
who
Because you knew
are
something was
you?
up with that dude because he just kept
Yeah.
coming in, and obviously the guy
Yeah.
was feeding off of him, but like he wasn't given much.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
like you're like something's fishy with that dude, but you couldn't put
Yeah.
your finger on it, and
Yeah.
it like finally is like at least a little bit's clicking.
Don't you think
And
he's hot though, Chanel?
huh?
Don't you think Rashid's hot though? Like he's an
I
attractive
mean,
man.
yeah.
We
He's
just haven't talked about
gorgeous.
him much, so
I
Mhm.
Yeah,
know.
yeah, right. But
don't worry.
but yeah. Yeah.
He's
But
gorgeous. I adore him. I talk about slutty little t-shirts. He which is so funny when you watch it back, so many of his like costumes throughout season 1, despite being a vampire, we assume by the end of this episode, is like deep V, like let me show off my neck to you, like so like don't you want to bite me, like just like
Yes.
oh my God.
such like it's just very funny little costume choices where you're like, yeah, like I guess if you're an apex predator, you don't worry about people attacking your neck. But like you're living with a vampire apparently as a
Yes.
human and you're
Yeah.
just like neck like tits out. Like it's just
Tits
Tits
out.
out. I love it.
yeah,
It's
man.
hilarious.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, so we got some answers. I think
Yeah.
that's it though, right? That's how the
Mhm.
episode ends. Yeah, yeah.
Guys, I'm
very
so
true.
pumped for the next
I
episode.
know the
I know.
finale.
I'm
We'll
so
have a
pumped.
blast. Yes.
I gotta rewatch it.
I'll be drinking
before-
wine that episode, just heads up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so great to calm
gonna
my
be great.
nerves.
Yeah. This will be great. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. 5 and 6. 5 and 6 are wild because they take you on several
It's
rides.
so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
so
mean,
much.
you're just
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you said, intense.
I know.
Intense.
Something
yeah.
we could like talk about in our episode 7 with our quote unquote extra time is how they originally were going to do seasons 1 and 2 in one 8-episode season. So like I can't even imagine like how things would have truncated down. And like I just wonder how like how they would have split up what would probably be 4 episodes, of like of these 7 episodes. Like not what they would
Mhm.
cut, but like how they would what they pulled out and expanded and like what they
Mhm.
shaped, how they would have like condensed it in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like really brought it in.
Yeah.
I don't
Which
think it
makes me
would've been
think
good.
no, it would have been rough.
Mhm.
And it really would have been like, and like what we see in episode 7 is that there is a very clear, good way
Mhm.
to like find a climax of the season and like
Mhm.
what we were
Mhm.
doing this entire 7-episode arc,
Mhm.
and even, Claudia says it at the end of this, like Claudia's going to take on Lestat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think we would
Yeah.
have been. I think we get so much of the characters with season 1 being just season
Yeah.
1.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it wasn't like crammed into 4 episodes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I can't imagine. Even if they did 5, which would have been a detriment to season 2 as
Oh.
we
Yes.
want season 2 to be. But like even if they did 5, it would have been they could have done it, but season 2 would have been awful packed
Mhm.
into those 3 episodes. Anyways. Oh my God,
Yes.
Chanel, I cannot wait for us to do 7 and then to start on season 2.
Mhm.
I know.
Season 2.
Season 2.
Season
I get to
2.
watch season 2.
One of us.
One of us. Yes.
Yes, I'm excited.
Amazing.
Yay.
Perfect.
Yeah, these were good episodes.
Mhm.
Like you
Yeah.
said, intense, but they were
Yeah.
good. And yeah, now we're on the finale. Join us next time, everyone.
We'll figure out when.
I
I
know.
know.
We don't,
To be
we don't know
announced.
when.
TBD.
Thanks for
TBD.
listening.
Thanks for
Bye.
being here. Bye.
Bye, guys.